Wait. All right, so the New York Mets able to have a victory in their spring training game today against the Miami Marlins, winning 8-4. Chris Bassett on the mound. This is a big start for Bassett because as of right now, Chris Bassett is the Mets ace. With Jacob deGrom having the shoulder injury and Max Scherzer having a bit of a tight hamstring, Chris Bassett might be the number one for the Mets right now. And Bassett, definitely, this was not his best outing, going 5 innings, giving up 4 runs. He got bit by the long ball a little bit. Jorge Soler hitting a home run. Um, Jesus Aguilar hitting a home run as well. And the Marlins, they got some hitters that definitely could take over the fence. And they're not a slouch team. The Marlins could definitely put up runs. So Chris Bassett definitely wasn't his best outing, but he still was able to at least get 5 innings out of it. Chasen Shreve followed him up, giving them a score, saying it worked with 2 strikeouts. Then Trevor Williams closed it out. 3 innings, giving up 4 hits, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So Trevor Williams is a guy that's really important to this team right now because right now Mets have a couple starting pitchers down. You imagine Tyler McGill is going to be the 5 starter, but I think that Trevor Williams is somebody that definitely could have a bit of an impact and a role on this team. He definitely has got to make the opening day roster to start off as a long reliever. And if they need him to do some spot starts or if they have a doubleheader, things like that, or another person gets hurt and you already have Jacob deGrom who's going to be out for at least a month, you definitely could see Trevor Williams sliding into the rotation every now and then. So I definitely think that he's been really good this spring training. When the Mets acquired him, the Javi Baez trade, he's pitched well. He continues to keep that up. So until Trevor Williams starts to pitch bad, you might as well keep letting him pitch and see what you got in him. I'm definitely very intrigued by him. And the same goes for Chasen Shreve. I mean, he also has not given up a run this spring training either. He has a really good chance to make this team. So we're going to go over the hitting, some other takeaways from this game, and then we're going to talk about the deGrom injury, the Scherzer injury, the Dom Smith almost being traded, and then Miguel Castro actually being traded today. So takeaways from the offense, Brandon Nimmo did his thing. Hello, Mark. What's going on? Let's go, Mets. Nimmo got on base 3 times. Starling Marte, a couple of hits, an RBI, and a walk. P. Alonso had a couple of hits, and he scored. Dom Smith came off the bench. He got a really big ovation. He had a double. Eduardo Escobar, home run. Robbie Cano, 4 for 4. I think at least one, those should have been considered an error, but at least McNeil got a hit. And Tomas Nido with 3 hits. Nido's had a really good spring, so he's another guy. That's going to be interesting to see how the Mets go about this. If McCann continues to not be as good defensively as Tomas Nido, and Nido is swinging a pretty good bat, you could see Tomas Nido being a guy that's getting 60% to 70% of the playing time as far as who the catcher is going to be. Do I think Scherzer will be ready for opening day? I sure hope so, Rob Manfred, because one of the interesting things that the Mets did today, starting Chris Bassett, was if, let's say for whatever reason that Scherzer is not ready, this means that Carlos Carrasco is most likely going to start opening day because that would be 4 days rest for Chris Bassett. You're not going to start Bassett on 4 days in the beginning of the season. So Scherzer better be ready, and I think he will. I hope he will because he needs to be. Because with deGrom, I mean, again, we'll get to that in a little bit once we're done. Actually, no, we'll get to it now. Forget these hitters. The thing with Jacob deGrom is on Mets Weekly since July, since August, we've been talking about deGrom, all these different nagging injuries. He comes in, he pitches a few innings, he has to leave early. And we just didn't understand what was going on with Jacob deGrom and his health. And then you had the Sandy Alderson press conference with, there might be something with his UCL. And then deGrom says his UCL is fine. And you're like, okay, well, what's the real deal here? What is going on with Jacob deGrom? And he ends up not pitching at all in the second half of the season. And then we're like, okay, everything's all right, I guess. He didn't have any procedures. We didn't have any updates on his health. If there's anything wrong, seemed like he was perfectly fine. He makes a couple starts, isn't throwing 102. And then he just all of a sudden, in typical deGrom fashion these past couple of years, just a random injury. So I really don't get what's going on. Mets say it's a possibility of an opening starter off day. That would be a disaster. I know. If Scherzer can't start opening day, and like I said, it won't be Bassett, you don't want to see an opener. You don't want to see a bullpen game. You don't want to see any of this other stuff. It would just not be fun at all to watch and make things really tough on the Mets, especially going forward. I mean, you don't want to tire out your bullpen day one of the regular season. I mean, at least wait a few days before we're going to get into something like that. And then Max Scherzer, another guy where all of a sudden, like right as we're hearing about Jacob deGrom and this shoulder scapula stress reaction, all of a sudden we hear, and Max Scherzer has a not tweaked hammy, but his hamstring is bothering him a little bit. Now he can't make his spring training start. And we're like, how in the world does deGrom and Scherzer both get hurt in the span of 24 hours? I mean, if that's not typical Mets luck, I don't know what is. And it's just really frustrating because we so much, ever since the Mets signed Scherzer, we hyped it up. deGrom and Scherzer and deGrom. It's going to be so exciting. Mets got these big 2 pitchers. They could really go a long way. It's all going to be about deGrom and Scherzer. It's so exciting. Just last Sunday, we saw these two guys pitch in the same game, and it was so exciting to see these two guys. And now we're not seeing either one of them. So they just got to get these two guys healthy. It was a big concern. We knew that. Like I said, deGrom last year, we know Scherzer had a few, nagging things along the season and in the playoffs. And he's just at an older age where you are much more prevalent to injuries. So I really hope that this stuff gets wiped out. The bats look good today. Alonso, Marte, Escobar, McNeil, Nimmo, just Lindor went over 5. Yeah, I mean, Lindor was doing pretty good, and then today had a bad game. It happens. But at this point, it's like if the pitching isn't healthy, if the team isn't healthy in general, the bats can only do so much. Because last year we saw them have pitching injuries and inconsistencies, and the bats didn't step up. But if the bats do step up, maybe that could carry you until you get healthy. But it's gotten to the point now where, let's say 4 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, Jacob deGrom is indeed back on the mound. I do not have that much confidence that Jacob deGrom will remain healthy. That's just the way it's gone lately. It's like it always seems like it's something that it's just out of nowhere. And we thought that, oh, well, because deGrom was swinging the bat, that's what's getting him hurt. Once we have a universal DH, he'll be fine. He won't have as many injuries. And then all of a sudden, oh, no, stress reaction in his shoulder. Hey, yeah, no, I blame Andrew Acevedo. This rhino right here on Mets Weekly says, I hope he messes up his UCL and he gets to opt into his contract, so we have to pay him more. Typical Wilpon mindset. You care about money more than deGrom's health. When will deGrom be back? I hope 5 to 6 weeks. But at this point, who really knows, honestly? Because the thing is, he's getting shut down for at least 4 weeks. And then it's going to take, I would imagine, a week or two to ramp up to get into game action, maybe make a alternate site start or something like that, a minor league start, whatever. And then hopefully he could be on the mound. And deGrom wasn't even throwing 102 this spring. He was throwing 100. He was throwing 99, 98. So I thought that maybe he's not going all out, or maybe he's just not there all the way health-wise. And clearly he is not. Hey, this is Frank About Sports. Hey, what's up, you guys? Tony Metro here. Been slacking on the baseball a little bit, but I do have a video coming out, and I'm doing commentary for my college. But, yeah, so the next topic on, I guess, a bit of a lighter note. Yeah, I know. Now we get Siler McGill to get in the rotation. How many home runs will Alonso and Escobar hit? That's a good question. I could see Alonso hitting about like 37 and maybe Escobar like 26, 27. I'm not sure what that is combined, but is that really Nationals Park? I just picked the background that was on here. Let me change that. Thank you for a minute. How about, no, that's Andrew. We don't want that. Okay. Rand, how about this one? We'll just do the Mets Weekly background since we don't want Nationals Park back there. Okay, so next topic. Dominic Smith nearly traded. And now this was a story all day yesterday where you're looking at tweets from John Heyman and Joel Sherman and everybody else talking about it. Dom Smith is going to be on the move. He's going to be going to the San Diego Padres. And we're like, whoa, where did this come from? And then what really stood out to me was that we're hearing that all of a sudden Dom Smith doesn't really want to be on the Mets if he's not going to be starting every day, which he clearly will not be starting every day on this team. Pete Alonso is going to be the first baseman. And every now and then, Dom Smith's not going to get that many reps in left field since the Mets added Mark Canha. They also added Starling Marte. So there just isn't, and Robinson Cano is going to be a DH, so there's no room for Dominic Smith. So if he's not going to be a starter, he wants to be on another team. So, yeah, I mean, that's what happens where even though the Dom Smith trade didn't go through yesterday, I feel like Dom Smith is going to be traded at some point soon. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's by the deadline, whether it's next week, whether it's today or tomorrow, Dom Smith is probably going to be traded if he doesn't want to be here. If you don't want to be here, then you're gone. I mean, that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. Should the Mets via someone trade rotation? If so, who? I've said Tyler Mahle for months now. If they got him, I would be ecstatic. But Sean Manaea is obviously off the board. I don't know if Oakland's going to move Frankie Montas. You already gave up JT Ginn and Adam Olaire. Will Montas cost more or less? It's going to be tough. Maybe you call up the Diamondbacks and see if one of their guys on the move, Merrill Kelly, Luke Weaver, guys like that, a little bit of depth guys. I mean, I guess you could re-engage with the Padres about Chris Paddock. So guys like that is who I'm looking at right now because other than that, we haven't really heard too many other names on the trade block. But as the season progresses, maybe some other guys will pop up. Other teams will decide they're going to rebuild. Dom Smith for AJ Puck. I mean, who knows? They could talk about Oakland again. You don't trust Dom for 162. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem where Dom, it's been so inconsistent. He had the good 2020, but that was a short sample size. He had the injury in 2021. He played good in 2019, but got hurt, so missed a good chunk of the second half. So it's really tough to evaluate him, but regardless, he's just not going to be a starter on this team. Unless somebody gets hurt, Dom Smith will not start, so he will be traded. And the trade, like, I didn't like it at first, but I mean, it really would have come down to this is a big experiment for Jimmy Hefner. Let's say this trade actually does end up happening, they re-engage and do it. It's going to come up to Hefner. Like, can you get Chris Paddock to where he was? Can you get Emilio Pagan to where he was? And then as far as Eric Hosmer, we talk about Don Smith not having a role. Eric Hosmer really wouldn't have a role in this team because Hosmer can't even play the outfield. Hosmer is going to be a first baseman. And again, Pete Alonso is the first baseman. So there wouldn't be any room for Hosmer. They were talking about maybe flipping him to the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs have a couple starting pitchers. Tony, your question before, Drew Smiley, Wade Miley. Maybe you could talk about one of those guys. Again, at this point, you're looking at vets to fill out your rotation, number 4 stars, number 5 starters, even number 6 starters pretty much, because you're not trading for an ace right now. If you do, you're really dipping into the farm system. If the Mets are to get a frontline starting pitcher to be at the top of the rotation that could fill in for deGrom or Scherzer or pitch right after those guys, you already gave up JT again. So the next pieces you're looking at giving up, you're now getting into that top 5 category of the Matt Allen, the Mark Vientos, the Ronnie Mauricio. I mean, maybe Dom Smith can be involved in some kind of big-time pitcher trade. J.D. Davis as well. He doesn't have a role either on this team. So that's something that the Mets are really going to have to be looking at as this season progresses. Will the Mets trade Dom Smith and prospects Junior Santos and Jordan Ventura to the Angels for Patrick Sandoval and prospect Kyron Paris? Something like that is pretty intriguing because that's some names that we haven't heard the Mets being linked to. And that's kind of the way the Mets have done business in the Steve Cohen, Sandy Alderson era, whatever you want to call it. It's usually out of nowhere. It's names we didn't hear about. It's rumors that we didn't hear about. Those are the moves the Mets made. Dom for Gleyber and Nestor. It seems like the Yankees are going to let Gleyber start for now. If they did trade him, obviously they could move up DJ LeMahieu. But who knows? I mean, the Mets and the Yankees already made a trade today as the Mets traded Miguel Castro for Rodriguez, who's a left-handed reliever. This is another trade that kind of came out of nowhere. I did not know that the Mets were really looking to move on from Miguel Castro and get a different pitcher. And the reason why you got to feel good about Bassett right now, yeah, I do like his curveball. It really is nice. Very nice mix as far as pitch differentials and speeds. But I just think that you're trading Miguel Castro simply because Rodriguez is left-handed. I don't really love that. Like I said, Chasen Shrieve's been pitching really good in spring training. Same with Alex Claudio. So Miguel Castro, he does have some upside. He does have good stuff. The only problem is that every now and then Miguel Castro has those outings where you are like, oh boy, he's walking the ballpark and he just can't find the strike zone. And he's putting himself in really bad counts, putting the Mets in a tough spot. And if you have this 3-batter minimum rule, and I mean, we don't know how much damage Castro could do in the span of 3 batters. So you always have that risk involved in him. Rodriguez is not amazing, but again, there's another experiment for Hefner. At least you're getting a little bit of lefty depth. And now Miguel Castro was a guy that was a shoo-in to make the roster. Now that he's gone, it's like, does Rodriguez make this roster automatically? We'll see. I mean, I haven't really kept up with his spring training number because I've been so focused on the Mets. But I know last year, ERA-wise, he wasn't great. Metrics-wise, he was not as bad as the normal stats would suggest. So I am curious to see what he does. But again, I liked what I saw from Shreve out of Claudio. And with the 28-man roster that they have right now, I think that we could see both Chasen Shreve and Alex Claudio making the team. Like I said, Trevor Williams better make this team. I think he really deserves to be on this team. And then we'll see what else they do with those couple extra spots. Great game. I think this game showed a lot of what Mets fans are going to see this year. Let's go, Mets. Yeah, it definitely was a really big offensive performance. This is not the second time the Mets have beat up on Pablo Lopez in spring training. So that's something to monitor. I mean, obviously the Mets, they haven't really faced Alcantara or some of these other guys. Rogers, all the other really nice pitchers that Miami has, young guys, Luzardo, Cabrera. So, I mean, Miami has a lot of good pitchers that they could throw at you. But the Mets, for some reason, keep matching up with Pablo Lopez. They've done really well against him. Man, Miguel Castro got traded. That sucks. No, Andrew was pretty excited that Castro was going. He wasn't a big fan. And again, like, I'm not losing sleep over Castro, but we'll see what Rodriguez could do. Andrew, we all know Mets are training for Ramirez and Bieber. Well, they better hurry up because the Blue Jays, they keep, being rumored to be looking at Jose Ramirez. So if the Mets are going to pull that off, they better hurry up. That's all I'm going to say. And Bieber, I think he will be available at some point. Trade deadline, maybe not. But next offseason, I definitely could see Shane Bieber being on the trade block. And that could be something the Mets are hanging on to, some guys like the Mauricio, the Vientos, for a trade like that. Rodriguez was kind of bad in Texas, about a 1.50 ERA for the Yankees when they got him. Yeah, I mean, every now and then the Yankees, they get the most out of guys and they play way better than they should. But we'll see. I mean, he's going to a much more hitter-friendly ballpark than the Yankees, but there's be a different pitching system. but Jeremy Hefner has done a good job. I definitely cannot complain about that. So it's just another experiment for Hefner to work with. Here we go. Another trade. Wow. McNeil, Nimmo, and Mauricio and Suarez to the Brewers for Hader and Wong, and signed Tony Watson to a 2-year deal. I don't think the Mets would sign Tony Watson to a 2-year deal. I feel like they're being really strict of having it be a 1-year deal. But I don't think they're trading Nimmo quite yet. McNeil is definitely much more tradable, but I wouldn't trade those two guys for Josh Hader. I know Colton Wong's a good defender, but I really care more about offense. So that's what I'm looking at. Would you take on the contract of Blackmon to acquire Marquez, sending Dom to Colorado where he could be the everyday first baseman? I would. It'd just be that you have Blackmon and Cano, so that's 2 big contracts of guys that aren't playing. But I definitely, if it meant that you could get German Marquez, I definitely would be willing to do that. And Dom Smith, he might not be the starting first baseman because they just gave CJ Cron that extension. I mean, they could make Cron the DH, but that's something to consider if you're Colorado. You know, who's going to get that play time. But that would be good for Dom to be in that elevation course field. I wish Dom nothing but the best. I mean, he's been a really good, clubhouse guy for the most part. And he's had his good moments. He's had his bad moments. He's definitely been very unlucky with some of the injuries he's had. We know he had the shoulder injury last year he was playing through. So I definitely wish Dom the best wherever he goes. But it's just going to be really interesting because you know what? This was really bad timing for the Mets to have all these injuries happen and all these trade rumors to happen as we're literally just a few days away from opening day. I mean, it's in 4 days. I'm not disrespecting Chuck Nasty. Charlie Blackmon, I got nothing wrong with him. I'm just saying it would be a weird fit for the Mets that they're paying Cano all this money and they're paying Charlie Blackmon all that money, and one of them is not playing every day. So it wouldn't be ideal. But, I mean, is German Marquez the guy you want to go the 4th tier over for? Maybe. I mean, he's one of the better guys that are out there on the market. I still maybe would prefer someone like Luis Castillo. German Marquez is tough to evaluate with the whole course field thing. Some guys are better in course field. Some guys are not. Like John Gray, for example, he was actually better in course field this year than he wasn't. So you also do a spin rate and things like that with the altitude. So I'm kind of curious to see how Marquez would be on another team. I do think that Colorado would be willing to move on from him at some point. Colorado's one of those teams that it's just what they do. If they have a pretty good player, there's a really good chance that they're going to trade him. I mean, there are a few teams that are like that. Cleveland, Oakland, Tampa Bay. That's what these teams do. I mean, if they have a good player, they're going to trade him. It does give the Mets a solid control. We start pitching for 3 more seasons. Any away numbers are much better than Coors Field. And that's the problem. If he's controllable for 3 years, it's going to cost a complete bundle. I mean, you're looking at maybe 2 top 5 prospects going in that deal. So is German Marquez the guy you really want to completely gash the farm system for? That's what it comes down to. Mets want to replace Aaron Loop, about just not let go Loop. Anyways, happy we got we have a few relievers now. I mean, Tony Watson's still available, so if the Mets want to go all the way, I really think the Mets are waiting to see if Tony Watson would accept either a minor league deal or a deal that would keep them under that tax, that 290 threshold, that 4th tier tax, where one of their 2 first-round picks would go back 10 slots. I mean, yeah, all these guys, they're all intriguing. They're probably all available. Gallen, Caleb Smith, Ketel Marte. And, again, you could add Luke Weaver. You could add Merrill Kelly. The Diamondbacks, they definitely could make some moves. They definitely could move away some guys. Would I give up McNeil? I would give up McNeil for Ketel, especially if Gallen is coming along well. Mauricio and Beatty, that might be just a tad too much. I'd like to hang on to at least one of the Mauricio or Beatty. Probably, if I could, I'd like to hang on to Beatty. Which team is better? Oh, this is a good question. Blue Jays, Red Sox, or Rays? I lean Blue Jays. On paper, Blue Jays have the best team, in my opinion. I don't love the Red Sox rotation. But the Rays, their Rays are not never that good on paper. They just win. So you always, on paper, Blue Jays, but it would not surprise me if the Rays are the best team because that's just what the Rays do. They always overachieve. They exceed expectations. Oh, my gosh. Rookie of the Year predictions. This is a tough one. In the American League, I'm looking at Torkelson because he made the roster. If Julio Rodriguez makes opening day, he could make it. Bobby Witt Jr., he's another really good option. As far as the National League, it's a lot tougher because O'Neal Cruz, he's not going to start the year. But the National League is not nearly as competitive as is the American League. All the big prospects that are going to be starting the season this year, it's going to be in the American League. I mean, what other big-time National League guys are really going to get a chance this year to start opening day with their team? I mean, that's what really stinks about it. Because even also in the American League, Josh Young at some point is going to be on the roster for Texas. So the National League is a much more tougher one to predict. This Andrew guy doesn't even know boy probably relies on RBIs. Oh my gosh, what about the fly ball percentage? Want a ring, stop holding prospects. Prospects, huggers, trade everyone. I mean, yeah, so Andrew, he with a bit of a turn, he's always been a prospect guy. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm not necessarily hugging the prospects. Like I said, Mauricio will be traded at some point. Beatty, maybe. Like I don't think the Mets are hanging on to all of Mauricio, Vientos, and Beatty. Maybe only one of them will end up staying on this team to be the future everyday third baseman. So it all comes down to the right trade. Like, is this the guy you want to do it for? I mean, if we're talking about trades, Brian Reynolds, he's available. The deal hasn't officially happened yet, I don't think. So, I mean, he's someone to look at as well. Yeah, I know Spencer Torkelson, he did hit a missile today. Otherwise, tough to predict Rookie of the Year. Yeah, India, he was not a guy that people predicted. And Randy, he had the really good postseason. So, yeah, it definitely could be a surprise guy. Who knows who's going to get called up this year in the National League. We should make a trade. Who should we go after? It's tough. We've been talking about it. One of those Arizona guys intriguing to me, like I said, Mel Kelly, Luke Weaver, Caleb Smith, Zach Gallen, guys like that. Even if you want to take on the contract of Madison Bumgarner to get somebody else, all those other Arizona pitchers, I think Arizona is probably the team to look at right now. I mean, the Mets, they could trade for Tyler Mahle. They could trade for Montas. I think Tyler Mahle's a little more realistic. I don't know if they're going to give Oakland even more prospects than they did for Chris Bassett. So I think Mahle's the guy that's more realistic. Maybe it comes trade deadline season. Maybe that's when Cincinnati's actually willing to move on from him, unless the Mets really make an offer that Cincinnati can't pass up from. I've always liked Tyler Mahle. I would like to have him. Oh, here's another AL Rookie of the Year candidate, Matt Brash. He made the big league godly stuff. It's really tough for pitchers to win Rookie of the Year, I feel like. If these other hitters, like we talked about with Witt and Torkelson and Rodriguez and guys like that, it'll be tough for a pitcher to win. Who had the worst offseason, the Reds or the A's? This is a good question. It's tough. I'm gonna lean Reds, even though the Reds acquired good starting pitchers in some of the trades they made, getting guys like Williamson and some other really solid pitchers, and to go along with the pitchers they have, Hunter Green's going to make the roster. Maybe that's a sneaky Rookie of the Year for the National League. So I like what Cincinnati is doing, acquiring pitchers. But Oakland, they just acquired just a bunch of prospects, not only pitchers, but you know what? Christian Pache, they're taking a chance with him, but they also got some good prospects from the Blue Jays. So they obviously got Ginn, and Adam Oller's going to make the team for Oakland. So I think that Oakland added a lot, just a whole bunch of prospects compared to Cincinnati. They got a few pitchers here and there. I feel like Oakland got more. So I think I would lean Oakland. It's pretty close, though, and not in a good way. Because, like, this year, obviously both teams are bad, but it's all about who got the better prospects. J-Rod is going to win it, but he has the deGrom stuff with 102. Brash has the deGrom stuff. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, again, it's just hard for pitchers to win any of these awards, whether it's MVP or Rookie of the Year. It just feels like it's always a hitter. So, I mean, that would just be my predictions. Did anyone else have any other questions or Mets topics they want to go over? Because we're getting really, really close to the opening day. I mean, Mets only have 2 more spring training games left, tomorrow and Tuesday. That's the last 2. And then we're going to get right into it, and it's going to be the opening series against the Washington Nationals. I will have a division predictions coming out sometime this week, and then there's going to be, game recaps as the season progresses, and if any other moves happen, big moves, whether it's the Mets or other teams around the sport, definitely could do things like that. Montas is injury prone. I don't want to get him. Yeah, that's why I like Tyler Mahle better since he got through the year fully healthy. Does Miguel classify as a rookie? I don't think so. He could, but I'm not exactly sure to be exact. They haven't really talked about it. He might, but I don't know if he'd win. Again, it's tough for pitchers to win it. How many Frank Rage viewers are we going to get this month? It depends how bad the Mets play. If the Mets play really bad in April, you're going to get a lot of Rage videos. So that's what it all comes down to is how the Mets do. I mean, that's what determines my Rage. Who leads off, Marte or Nimmo? This is such a tough question because you really could go either way. I'll say Nimmo just so he could work the counts and just get the pitchers, a little rattled early, and then Marte can move them over. But again, you could go either way. Have Marte get on steal while Nimmo's giving him plenty of pitches to run on. I think it could alternate. Every now and then it's Marte, sometimes it's Nimmo. They definitely could go a few different ways. If Max is hurt, should the Mets do a bullpen game on opening day? No, but unfortunately, that's the only option they really have right now because Chris Bassett pitched today, so he's pitching on 4 days rest. And then I guess Taijuan Walker's going to pitch either tomorrow or Tuesday, and Carrasco's probably going to pitch. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, do you want Carrasco to be the opening day starter instead of the bullpen? I mean, we just haven't seen enough of Carrasco this spring training to say if we're really confident that he could be the guy again. Can Canada make a case for the leadoff spot? Against lefties, maybe because he gets on base so well. But I think, if anything, no matter what, Nimmo or Marte are going to lead off. And maybe against lefties, Marcana bats second. I mean, that's the best I could see for Canada. The show streams, don't count on it. I'm really going to focus mainly on the actual sports, not so much the video game things. But LFGM, that's right, Logan. Let's freaking go Mets. Got to keep it PG friendly. Got to get the ads, things like that. If you guys have enjoyed the stream, leave a like. And definitely whoever's watching in the future after the stream is over, leave a like. It definitely really helps. It would go for McGill. If he's rested, I mean, that'd be quite a lot to ask for a rookie. But obviously he could do it because he's a budding ace, and Tyler McGill is the greatest pitcher the Mets have ever had. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe you let Trevor Williams pitch a couple innings and then go to Tyler McGill and then the rest of the bullpen and see what happens. But I just really don't want to see that happen because you had this plan for so long that it's going to be deGrom. It's like, okay, if not deGrom, it's going to be Scherzer. Like, a bullpen game is not what the Mets had in mind. And what's really annoying is that, let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Mets do go to a bullpen game. Their next off day is an exact week. So you're going to go the first week with a tired bullpen. You're going to be facing the Phillies and you're going to be facing the Nationals with a tired bullpen. So I don't like that. Yamamoto is going to get some time this year. I don't see it, honestly. I really don't. I feel like Trevor Williams is ahead of Yamamoto in the pecking order. Obviously, McGill is ahead of him. And then it comes down to Yamamoto versus David Peterson. And Yamamoto got sent down so early, we didn't really get to see much of him. I think that maybe David Peterson's ahead of Yamamoto. So if we do see him this year, I think it means the Mets got hurt a lot. Or, I mean, it would have to be a lot of injuries for us to see Yamamoto on the Major League roster. I did see the trade with the Yankees. I mean, it's a very, low-level move. Miguel Castro is not an amazing player. Rodriguez is not an amazing player. It's just a bit of a swap. Mets get another lefty. Again, Castro had the upside, but we'll see what Hefner could do. I mean, because Rodriguez finished the year good. Is Edwin Diaz a top 10 closer in baseball? Probably. I mean, the whole closer thing, like, there really aren't that many great closers. It's about a handful of guys. And then there's going to be guys who are supposed to be good this year that aren't, and guys that weren't supposed to be good that are going to. That's just how relievers work. Edwin Diaz, he's a guy that, similar to Miguel Castro, where he'll have his outings where Edwin Diaz is going to strike out the side. He's going to look electric, pitch really, really well. But there are also going to be those outings where he's going to give up the home runs. He's going to hit a batter. He's not going to be able to find the strikes. He's going to throw wild pitches. And you're like, oh, my God. And then he's going to have a ball hit to him, and he's going to throw it into the freaking crowd. So, I mean, that's just what happens with Edwin Diaz. You don't know which Edwin Diaz you're going to get. And that's why, if Seth Lugo is his full self, the 2019 Seth Lugo, I prefer Seth Lugo, because Lugo, on the other hand, he's not going to hit batters. He's not going to throw it to the backstop. He's not going to throw it into the dugout. Seth Lugo, even though Edwin Diaz has better stuff, even though at their best Diaz is better, I just think that Lugo is more consistent. I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, we got the bad Seth Lugo today, who cannot come in with runners on base and a tie game and the rain, things like that. All these different rules we hear about Edwin Diaz. So, but Diaz will close to start off the year, and we'll see how it goes. But he probably is top 10, but you just never know when you're going to get that bad Diaz, because when Diaz is bad, he's real bad. And when he's good, he's really good. So he's just a risky guy. He's a really tough guy to evaluate. He definitely has improved, no doubt about it. He's improved compared to 2019, no question about it. But he definitely still has those outings where you're like, oh my gosh, we didn't get the good Edwin Diaz. And against someone to Castro with the 3-batter minimum rule, it's like, yeah, because how much damage could a guy do with 3 batters? And the problem is that, like, if Trevor May pitches before Edwin Diaz or Seth Lugo pitches before Edwin Diaz, if Diaz doesn't have it, what are you going to do? Go to Adam Ottavino? I would not want to go to Adam Ottavino and runners on base. I mean, he's even worse with guys on, because he really throws it all over the place. So it's like, if Diaz doesn't have it, you lost, because who else are you going to go to? The Mets don't really have that kind of bullpen depth, unfortunately. So that's just the way the team is constructed. Any other final questions that we have? Again, obviously be on the lookout for Mets Weekly on Thursday. I'm going to be doing a Reckless Airwaves on Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description, Frank D. Cugino. But if we don't have any last-second questions, we will end this up at 5 o'clock, because, I mean, there really isn't too much else to talk about, because it's getting ready for the regular season. We hope Scherzer's okay. We hope deGrom's injury isn't too bad. And let's be on the lookout for guys like Dom Smith being traded. So we do have Mets fan joining us in a little bit, but if we don't have anything else to really discuss, then I think we will end it right about here. But definitely thank you for everyone who's watching. I mean, hit the like button out of the ballpark, slide into the comment section. And if you're subscribed already, tell a friend, neighbor, stranger, dog, cat, fish, squirrel. I don't care who, a ghost. You just make extra Gmail accounts so you can subscribe and watch the ads too. But thank you, everybody. Let's go, Mets. Be safe, be smart, be healthy, everyone. Have a great week. And I'll definitely have some videos out during the week. So